So if you can bunny hop up onto the hillside, then you'll go down and you see those veins coming down. You'll jump those, and then where that dark rock with the orange on it is, that you go through that and jump over another triple going down. That's really tricky because there's pedal grabbers on both sides.
Dude,
it's quite frightening.
All right, what's happening, crew? Back with special guest star today. I'm gonna do a cool little video. We're gonna talk Levo SL. Now, first impression has already been done, but I think what's gonna be fun with this is, some of you may know this guy, big bro, Rob Drew. I got a fresh 2021 here, but this guy also has a fresh 2021 Levo SL. So we're gonna let him walk us through some of the things he did to set his bike up and take us from first impression kind of to where we are now. You down with that?
I'm down with that. I can do that.
Yeah. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready? So, yeah, Rich and I both now have the 2021 Levo SL. I've had mine for about a month. Actually, I've had it a little bit longer. I've been riding it about a month. Yeah. I think the bike's fantastic. I love the geometry. It feels like a legit mountain bike with a little bit of help. I've had a lot of experience on the Pivot Shuttle, and that's a full power e-bike. Definitely noticed the difference in the weight. The performance of that bike I thought was fantastic. This bike, it just, the first thing you notice when you ride it is it just feels more like a regular bike.
So for me, and getting this set up, there's some running changes, 20 to 21. Biggest are a Fox 36 from the Fox 34, and then a DPX2 in the rear. So I am not the best with bike setup. Rob is a suspension expert. The terrain in Bentonville is a lot different than the terrain here. So Rob's gonna walk me through an initial setup on my bike based on his experience, and then we're gonna go rip it on the mountain a little bit and see. So with the 36 and the DPX2, we've already played around with it a little bit. Where are we gonna start on my bike?
So what I discovered real quickly on mine, I've run the 36, the 2021 36, I've run the DPX2, and I had a familiar setup on that already. So looking at this bike, how it came to me, I just went with the pressures plus a little bit for the additional weight of the bike and found that I was bottoming it really hard. And so real quickly, I needed to add some ramp. You know, I found myself maxing the compression settings. You know, I don't like to run damping on the stuff. And I was maxed on the fork and the shock to keep it from bottoming. And so I went back and had to add some volume spacers. And what I ended up with on the fork was actually four volume spacers in that fork. I've never had to use that many, but that's what it took to make it right. And I didn't have the volume spacers for the DPX2, but I did have a coil that was the same length and fit the bike. So I threw that on, and with a 550-pound coil on there, that turned out to be a great setup for me. So we don't have another coil for your bike. I do have volume spacers, so we can add that if you'd like, or you can ride it how it is. It's your call.
Well,
you're a little huskier than me, so
they don't call me Cole Trickle for nothing.
Bottoming out.
So yeah, we'll set it up a little firm and ride it and see, and figure out what we can get. What's one other key thing or change input that you made to your bike literally on the trail the first time you rode it?
So it's got a height adjustment at the end of the shock mount, and you can go in a high or low. It comes in the low position, and my first ride on the bike, I was noticing a lot of pedal strikes and also kind of lazy steering, that flop sensation you get when a bike's real slack. And so I stopped mid-ride and turned that over into the high position. There's several different steps, the way that they've got a pretty ingenious little device in there that allows you to put it in several different positions. I went from the lowest to the highest. I highly recommend that. Increases maneuverability, increases ground clearance, and I don't see a downside to it myself.
Then let's make that adjustment Gear up. Hit the
Go
truck.
test it.
All right.
Go try it.
Let's do it.
Cool. All right, so I've made an executive decision, and based on Rich's bagel intake recently, I think that he's got enough heft. We're definitely going to have to add a little bit of progressive ramp to this fork. So if you decide to go and do this to your own bike, first thing you need to know is you want to let all the pressure out of the fork. If you uncap this thing with pressure in it, you're going to have an event. All right, so if you've ever looked at the air side cap on the fork, it's got a really shallow hex. And so the tool that you need to use to get that off is not an adjustable wrench. It's going to be a special flat socket. This is the Park Tool version. Fox offers their own. But with that tool, you can get all of that surface, and then you can crack this baby loose without breaking anything. And so that's the tool you're going to want to have. You remember what your dad used to tell you, right tool for the job. That's this. So when you open this up, what you're going to find is, I suspect, 2 volume spacers. Boom, there they are. So I put one in addition to this, went out and rode it, still was bottoming, ended up with a total of 4. We're just going to put that in for Rich right now. We're going to cut to the chase. Okay, so this is what the volume spacers look like when they're out. This is 2 clipped together, 2 clipped together. You'll notice they say 36 on the bottom. The orange color indicates the shock that it goes to. There are different colors. I think the 38 is yellow and the 34 is blue, but these just snap together. So you just do like that, and then you slip it right back in. All right, once we have the cap tightened back on and the spacers in, we'll just go ahead and air the shock back up to our desired pressure. In the case of Rich, I think it's like 150 pounds, something like that. We'll actually start him out at 70. We'll take a pump with us just in case. Now when you're doing this, before you fill it completely, I like to stop at about 50 pounds and then compress it a little. What's going to happen is this is going to transfer positive pressure into the negative chamber. If you don't do this on the way, when you take off and ride, you might lose about 25 pounds. And you could assume that you need to add pressure when what you really just need to be is at the pressure that you intended. Yeah, I don't know if you could hear that, but you could hear a little bit of air pass through. The transfer ports are very small. Yeah, just doing that, it dropped 10 pounds. There we go, 70 pounds, we'll try there. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull the shock out of the bike, and I'll show you the device that raises and lowers the ride height. It's pretty ingenious what they've come up with. So you're gonna have a 5mm at the top of the shock, 6mm down underneath. So you can get those guys nice and loose. What I like to do also is stick a towel in the back, because once this shock comes out, the back's gonna wanna drop down and you'll have a little bit of impact between carbon and metal. It's not awesome. Ratchet works best for this because you don't really have room for a T-handle. And when you undo this bottom bolt and the shock comes out, there's going to be some pieces that drop out of there, so don't lose track of those. Support the weight of the frame as you take this out. But the top comes out, then the bottom comes out, and as you just saw, these little guys. So you can see these things are tapered one way with an offset hole, and you can put them in 4 different positions. So that, as you can see, is the low position. We're going to rotate it around to the highest position. And these things interface with each other, so you really can't get it wrong because they won't intersect. And so we're doing this to try to get the ride height a little higher in the back, a little bit more pedal clearance, and to steepen the head angle of the bike for maneuverability. If you ride someplace where it's just straight down a mountain and you don't need to turn, maybe this, and you don't need to pedal, this setting might be good for you, but it's a lot of things to strike the pedals on here at South Mountain, and that can always cause some misfortune. So I try to do all I can to get as much pedal clearance as I can. I find that pedal clearance is of premium value. So that's pretty much the process. We'll put these bolts back in and tighten them up and be ready to hit the trail.
Yeah, I'm pumped, man. The 21, I think the changes are going to be good. You know, I've ridden the 20 quite a bit back home in Arkansas, and there's nothing too gnarly and chunky. So out here, it is gnarly, it is chunky. So the 36, the DPX2, of course, we put the cush core in. So the bike is completely stock except for the cush core. It's kind of a must-have out here. So I think we're dialed. I hope we're dialed. We'll go out and we'll ride a few different spots that Rob is really tuned into, and we'll make some changes if we need to. So time to shred it. All right, so for those who may not know, we're here at South Mountain.
South Mountain Park in Phoenix, 5 minutes from the airport, right in downtown, but when you get to the top, you'd swear you've gone to Afghanistan. It's high level, it's fun.
So very different from Bentonville. Bentonville's a little bit smoother. Chunky, gnarly stuff here, right?
Yeah, we got a mountain, 1,000 feet. We're gonna go climb up it.
Yeah.
Lots of rocks.
Yeah.
That Mother Nature installed.
I'm telling you, it's a
awesome.
great place. Finished second in the mountain bike capital of the world voting.
That's right.
So let's go ride it.
A close second. All right, we're here at the Gatekeeper. This is the entrance to National Trail, the first obstacle. If you can't get past this one, you probably just need to keep going that way to Mormon Trail and you'll still have a great ride. But this one's got 9 different ways up. If you want to check those out, go to my YouTube channel and watch my video, The 9 Lines of Gatekeeper. We're just going to work on a couple here.
If you go to my YouTube channel and watch the video he and I did, it's way better.
You could watch that one too.
Much higher production. So, okay, so SL on something like this. E-bike, it's bulky, it's cumbersome.
Well, some e-bikes are those things. The SL, I would say, is not those things. I don't know that it gives you a tremendous advantage. Again, I don't typically ride it in the boost setting. I ride it in the trail setting. So it's not that much more powerful, but the extra weight gives you extra grip. Ooh. And I've had great luck with it getting through some of the more technical stuff.
See if I can have some luck.
All right, so like we were talking in the garage, I've spent a little bit of time on the SL already, and I needed to make some adjustments to my suspension. One of the spots that I did a lot of testing was this section of National Trail right here. You're gonna come through this section with a lot of speed. You've got this descending rocky line here that sets you up for a rock triple going out into a pretty rocky zone with a lot of obstacles.
Where do you triple?
You're gonna take off right here. And then you're gonna 1, 2, 3, you're gonna land out there, ready to make your chicane to the left so you don't get piled into those boulders. I wanna hit those. At the speed you're carrying, that would be very unfortunate.
Yeah, dude, I'm gonna have to see that first, dude.
Let me show you.
Yeah, all right. Okay, run 1.
All right, so how was that? It looked pretty good.
The rear was decent, dude. The front, look at that.
Just plowed through it.
Dude, before I even got into the chunky stuff.
Yeah, the landing from that previous jump.
Not even the landing, yeah. So it's, can we do something compression-wise to try to fix that?
That's what we need to do right now, but likely what the problem could be, you know, we talked earlier about how when you pressurize the fork after it's been empty, you got to transfer pressure. I thought I did that well, but it's very possible if we threw a gauge on it now, it'd be down 10 pounds.
Okay, because it feels pretty soft.
Yeah, and I only had it at 75. We may find ourselves at 85 with some more compression.
All right.
All right, man, so how was that one?
That one was better. The fork, it's still bottomed, but it was nowhere near as harsh. The rear feels pretty good, so.
Yeah, so that's a pretty heavy landing. So you don't want to build the suspension around that because it would be non-compliant everywhere else. So as long as it wasn't brutal, you know, the first comment you made when you came back after the first one was wow. So we don't want that, but it sounds like we got it dialed in where we can now go work on some technical.
So then now, what would be next step here? So we're maxed out on compression to handle this. What would we do?
Well, what we want to do is go back and make sure we got the air pressure right. Earlier when we were setting up the fork, I talked about how you got to transfer the pressure. I thought I did a good job, but riding it is where that really gets determined. So if we go back and put a gauge on it and it's less than 75 pounds, the first thing we know is adding pressure is going to help.
Okay, so then let's say it isn't. The pressure's there. We have 4 tokens?
We have 4 tokens now, so the next thing we'd do is check the sag. Maybe we go heavier on the pressure and you run a little bit less sag. It's not the way I would prefer it to be, but it's
a learning curve.
Yeah.
So
we're running out of compression, and
yeah,
that makes the compliance not so.
It's the beauty of
flush.
Suspension testing. That's why it is not fun.
Yeah.
You got to do
a new bike, you
got
to put the time in.
Well,
don't expect it to come out of the box working its best. You
So
got to tweak, you got to tune.
Your bike, you're pretty happy with it?
Pretty happy with it, yeah.
How much time do you have on it out here?
I probably have a solid 10 hours on it.
Okay. So it's going to take a little bit more time, probably.
Oh yeah, like even just the stuff we're doing today, there were some things that didn't feel like it felt last time I rode it. So it might just be that I'm not warmed up, but you know, it's always a work in progress.
Work in progress. So I'm excited because I like how this feels. The upgrade to the 36 and the DPX2 I think are better than the 20 model, so definitely worth it for this bike. Stay tuned, follow along. We'll be doing a lot more SL content, kind of journeying along, maybe making some changes. We're gonna put some different wheels on it. We might go bigger shock, bigger fork, who knows? So check it out behind the scenes at the Rich Drew, at the Rob Drew. Hope you're a subscriber, hope this helped. If you have any specific questions, technical questions, drop them below and I'll make sure
I answer.
This guy
I'll do my homework.
them.
I'm not a fan of homework, but I'll do some for you.
I'll do it. All right, we're gonna go do a little more testing, rip a little bit, and get some food. So with that, from South Mountain, the Majesty. Peace out, dumpers. Yeah, almost killed you that time. Slow down, not check up.